Thanks for tuning in to Chords Los Angeles. It's Mark Vachon. Today I'm here with a good, dear friend of mine, Stephen Metz. The format of this one is going to be what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So I wanted to stop by and kind of catch up with you and kind of explain to some people. I know there's a lot of interest in Mad Society. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
You know? So I called Steven today and I was like, dude, I'm coming over and I want to talk to you about some things. And cool enough, he says, okay. We'll keep it short and sweet. For those of you that don't know, Steven and I were in a band called Mad Society. Came out of Hollywood in the end of the, what was it, 79, 80, 81?
Yeah, it was like end of 79 was sort of the concept. 80 is when we played.
Like, the way I remember it is it happened so quickly in the period of time that we actually started the band, from, like, listening to Rodney and, you know, kind of, like, putting the band together. You remember all that.
Yeah.
How it was
I
like,
remember.
You're going to sing and you're going to play the drums.
Yeah, we basically just kind of threw around all these different ideas and just, like, went, all right, well, why don't we try Stevie singing?
Right.
And then you were playing guitar, like, all right, let's just do the band. And that was it. A lot of people think, like, oh, our parents propped us up.
Right.
You know, and they're the ones that were you know, that made us want to do it. And the fact is that actually our parents didn't really want us to do it.
Oh, man.
And we just like playing our own gigs, and that's how it started. And then we just, you know, got out there and really got to play with, like, bigger bands and whatever. And
I mean,
you know.
I just remember, like, I couldn't even tune the guitar, but we were playing the Starwood.
I think that's like what's so cool about, you know, about that scene was that it was really like basic music, super simple, and just mainly like young kids getting out aggression, you know, in a semi-healthy way. I mean, if you look back on it now, it was so scary back then, but if you think about it now, it really wasn't that crazy, you know, like, you know, as far as the violence was concerned, you know, it was like, you know, it wasn't that violent. I mean, I guess it's all relative. Yes, it's violent compared to Lightning in a Bottle Festival, where there's thousands of people and nobody gets hurt. But, you know, when you think about, like, you know, the other stuff that goes on in city life, I think what the punks were doing was...
Seems like we're immune because we were there and we grew up in it. I mean, that's like my perspective.
Yeah.
You know, because most people, they're like, dude, you guys weren't even old enough to leave your houses and you were playing in clubs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's all relative. You know, to me, like, that stuff doesn't seem that crazy. But then again, you know, like, yeah, like, for people that grow up in those environments, it's people that live in a lot of fear all the time. It's, that's a sad, very limiting way to live, I think. You know, so, like, being in a scene that helps dispel fear, I think is, like, a really good, you know, I think that's a really positive thing in life.
I mean, I think the advantage that we had, it was like, there was no fear, obviously. Like, we were already making our own clothes and shit back then.
Yeah.
I mean, you were running around, well, whatever, with this knife that was like a fucking, you know, samurai sword. And you know, and I mean, there's gangs and stuff now, but it's like, if you know, people could have seen what our reality was in the time, it's just like, it was interesting.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun times.
Well, I mean, I think that's some of that stuff, too, that you inherit some of that. You know, like, I got a lot of that from my dad.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of posts about your dad recently.
Yeah, and he was kind of, like, you know, till the end. I mean, till he was, like, in his 70s, and he was still, you know, pretty dangerous guy, actually. Yeah. Like, it's funny, because I remember looking at him, he's, like, this sort of little guy, you know, small guy. You know, when he was older, he got smaller and, you know, he was kind of sick and whatnot. And I remember saying, God, this is actually one of those dangerous people I think I've ever actually been around, you know, because he was a Marine and, you know, he carried guns with him everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. It's just an interesting, you know, thing about not knowing where that stuff comes from. And if I look at that, I say, well, I've come really far now.
I mean, I don't think many of us, you know, when we were that age, and surely nobody that came before us had a mohawk, you know, being that young and was able to go out into the public, and you knew damn well that people were going to give you a hard time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, I mean, there were influences at the time, but still, I mean, I think it kind of spawned a lifestyle for you and for me, and you know,
For a lot of people. I mean, but then again, you know, look at things like surfing and
Right.
other stuff. Like, you know, I mean, I still surf and rock climb and do all these other things,
Yeah.
and they're you know, I mean, I have to say, I was way more dangerous surfing
Right.
when I was at those clubs,
Right.
going to clubs when I was a kid. For me, what balances it all out is doing the more internal arts. Lately, I've been doing, you know, a lot of like qigong, meditation,
Oh, that's awesome.
a little bit of like aikido and yoga, you know, which they're all actually linked together. Like even the yoga I do is forms. So those forms are actually, a lot of them are like sword fighting katas, which
That's awesome.
you just remove the sword.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not doing it for violent purposes. You're doing
Yeah.
it to avoid violence, which is wise.
And so what I wanted you to
Okay.
kind of explain was what happened. Now, I know you were involved in an accident,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
And it kind of changed your life in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So what happened to me, at least, which happens with, I guess, a lot of yoga teachers, I got in a really bad car accident. I got really hurt. And to heal, you know, being from a family that doesn't have a ton of money, you know, we couldn't hire somebody to really come in and rehabilitate
Yeah.
my body, at least not every day,
Yeah.
you know. And so I started taking yoga and using yoga to like get my movement, my joint mobility back. So that's what happened. That's why I ended up getting into yoga, because I, you know, like broke and dislocated my right elbow,
Weesh.
injured both of my heels, injured my neck, my back, my right shoulder, my thumb, actually both of my thumbs, which I'm not sure how that happened. You know, busted my lip, my eye. I mean, I had like glass chunks I was like pulling out of my forehead for like
Yeah.
3 months.
Oh.
You know.